All right, well, we got about 15 days till we hit Colorado, flying out for our second year elk hunt. Hoping to kill this year. I feel pretty confident that we're gonna kill. We got this, if everything works out like it did last year, there's no reason why we shouldn't kill at least one elk, hopefully 2 elk this year. But we're taking the time to kind of go through our gear together and see what each one of us is carrying. And we figured we'd take the time this evening to go through our tent setups, because we are using 2 pretty different tent setups. Weight-wise, we're both around the same, but just the system itself is different. So Nathan's going to be using the same tent he used last year, which is the Nemo Hornet 2-person. And his packed weight is 2 pounds, 6 ounces, and that's including stakes, tent poles, and tent, which that's a super, super light tent. Great tent setup. As far as just your standard tent, if I bought a different tent, that's the tent that I was going to go with this year. But that being said, I ended up going with the Luxe. It's called the Hexpeak. And what it is a Tipi tent. So it just uses a standard trekking pole to pitch the tent, and it's a floorless type shelter. So my tent setup is, the outer tent itself is 1.45 pounds. And then my little floor that I kind of rigged up, it's just like a homemade like floor tarp type thing. I'm thinking that's like around 6 ounces. So I'm somewhere around 2 pounds right there with my setup. So Nathan's setup 2.6 pounds, my setup 2 pounds ish, like 2 pounds, maybe 1 ounce with the stakes. And I'm not counting my trekking pole in as weight, because that's something that I'm already carrying in my pack. So I'm not factoring that in my tent weight. So just keep that in mind, that I do have to have a trekking pole, but I'm already going to be packing that with me. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and set up these 2 tent setups, and then we'll kind of get into the reasons why we like what we like. Nathan's going to get into why he likes his tent. I'll get into why I went with the shelter that I'm using this year versus the standard tent like I used last year. So we'll go ahead and cut to that now. We'll go ahead and start putting these tents together. All right, so we got our tents put up. You can see the difference. You know, I got the Teepee style shelter versus Nathan has your standard tent, like what you would see, you know, somebody backpacking and stuff like that. So one thing I want to point out is Nathan will be able to put his tent out with no stakes. If he had to, like in an emergency scenario where he couldn't get stakes in the ground, he could just pop his tent up. He can actually put his up without even putting his inner tent in if he wanted to do just like a floorless shelter. For me, I have to have something holding my corners of my tent out. It's not a pop-up style tent with the poles and stuff like that. So it just has a single trekking pole here in the center, and that's all that holds it up, is just your single trekking pole. And then you have 6 stakes around the tent. You got 1 big vestibule. The thing I like about this is it's super versatile, super lightweight. You don't have to worry about carrying the extra tent poles in your pack. You already have your trekking poles, so I don't even, like I said earlier, I don't even count that in additional weight or in my tent weight, because I'm already carrying 2 trekking poles anyway. Other thing I like about a floorless shelter is it gives you room. Like if you got to pee in the middle of the night, I know it sounds gross, but you just roll over and pee out of the corner of your tent. You don't have to worry about getting out. Weather's bad, you know, you got a whole bunch of room in here. I mean, I've got one side like a little homemade floor in the bottom of it, and then the other side is completely open for my gear, my bow. Like you can see right now, I got my bow in here, and one side of the vestibule, just kind of showing what kind of room I've got in there. But like I said, just super versatile, super lightweight. You can pretty much pitch it anywhere, just as long as you can get some stakes in the ground or get some rocks on your stakes. And just having that extra space is key, especially when you hit bad weather. It's super nice to be able to just kind of lay out in your tent, put your gear out, not have to worry about it getting wet, not have to worry about it getting snowed on, whatever it may be. The other good thing about a teepee style tent like this is it's going to shed water for one, and it's going to shed snow. It's going to deal with wind very well. Personally, this type shelter here is going to be more of, it's not quite a 4-season tent, but it could be used as a 4-season tent. It actually has an option to put a stove jack in it where you can put a camping stove in here and use it in the wintertime as a 4-season tent. They're just a teepee style tent, super durable for the weight that you're carrying. It's awesome. That being said, where we're going, there's no bugs. A lot of people worry about bugs getting in under your tent because there's no actual tent inside of it. Where we're going, we don't really deal with bugs very much, maybe a few ants, and that's just about it. No mosquitoes and stuff like that. So keep that in mind if you're going somewhere. Like we just did a backpacking trip to Alaska, a bunch of mosquitoes. This tent here, Luxe, actually has a 1.5 person inner that goes in here. Which worked out perfectly, never had any worry about mosquitoes, and it's super lightweight as well. I think total weight, I'm somewhere around 3 pounds with that system, whereas I'm right around 2 pounds with this system. So it's not a lot of extra weight, and it packs down super small. So there's definitely some great options out there for a teepee style tent like this. And then bring it on in, and I'll kind of show you what the inside looks like. So you can see here I've got just enough floor in here for me to lay my pad, sleeping bag, and stuff like that down on. And then I've got this whole vestibule here for all my gear. Hey bud, my dog's getting in the way. But this tent pole right here actually does very well at keeping your stuff divided. So I found out that when I sleep in this with this setup here, I don't want to roll off my floor here. I stay right here on this little floor I've got set up, and I stay dry, stay clean, all my gear stays clean. It's just an all around good setup, and I really enjoy the way this thing's worked out for me so far. Kudos to Hexpeak. I think MSRP on this is like 165 bucks or 161 bucks, something like that. So for what you're getting, it's super lightweight, super cheap. You can't beat it. And I just have absolutely no complaints so far about this system. The only downside, if there is a downside, is a system like this may tend to sweat a little bit more just because this material is a little thicker than, say, your standard two-piece tent. But that being said, there's very good ventilation. There's actually a pole, a little awning type thing that sticks out right here, and you can leave your upper end of your tent, especially if you're not having to worry about bugs. You can actually leave the upper end of this tent zipped open, and it's got an overhang here so you don't have to worry about the water, but it lets just enough ventilation in here where you don't have to worry about condensation. Like I said, we spent 4 days in Alaska, and I never once really had to worry about condensation. I could see a little bit just on the outside of the tent, but nothing major whatsoever. So like I said, can't say enough about the Luxe Hexpeak tent. It's great for a backcountry elk hunter like me. It's super lightweight, and I've really enjoyed this tent so far. So that being said, this is my setup. This is the way I like to set my tent up and what I like to stay in the backcountry. So I'll switch places with Nathan here, and I'll let him kind of describe why he likes what he's got, and then we'll kind of get together at the end and kind of do an overview. But let's get on over to Nathan, and let's see what he has to say. So I'm sitting here editing this video of of our backcountry shelters here, and I noticed that Nathan was kind of getting a little tongue-tied, and he didn't exactly know how he wanted to say what he wanted to say. So in essence of getting y'all the best information I can get y'all and kind of streamlining what he was trying to say, I'm just going to go in doing a separate audio track for this little clip here,
and I'm just going to kind of explain what Nathan was saying. And I apologize for that. We just didn't have enough time. Sun was going down. We didn't really have enough time to do a second take. So I'm going to go ahead and explain kind of what Nathan was talking about. So this is a tent that he bought last year before our elk hunt. During the elk hunt, several times I watched him put this tent up in, I would say, less than a minute. I mean, it's super fast. If I hadn't bought the shelter that I bought this year, that's his shelter, the Nemo Hornet 2-person, was the one that I was going to buy. And the reason that we buy 2-person shelters is because we got all this gear that we're carrying on our backs. We're back there, we got our bows, our packs, all that stuff, camera gear. And in Colorado, the time of year that we go, generally we'll wake up a little frost on the ground. If it comes through a little shower or whatever, it is nice to have the double vestibules like the Nemo Hornet has in order to have enough gear that you can enough space in your vestibules you can cover up all your gear. Also, if something happens to one of your buddy's shelters in the backcountry, having a 2-person, everybody having a 2-person shelter helps, because your buddy can jump into your shelter and also have enough room to put his gear in there. So for the amount of weight difference that you get, I would definitely recommend a 2-person shelter versus a single-person shelter. If you're crunched for space and you're really trying to count weight, count ounces and stuff, you can go to a single person, but after seeing how easy it is to put his tent up and how light it is, I would definitely recommend this Nemo Hornet 2-person for a single-person backcountry hunter. That being said, the material on his tent is quite a bit thinner than the material on my Luxe Hexpeak. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a very durable tent. The only thing that I would keep in mind is that if you're hunting somewhere that's going to have snowfall, or if it's going to be really high wind, the back end of his tent is a little bit high off the ground there where his head lays. And I have heard stories of people having rain blow up under there, but he never had an issue out of it. And for the area that we're hunting, I believe his tent is absolutely perfect. You can't beat it at all. His tent, he's got to carry extra poles other than his trekking poles, and that's just because his is an internal frame tent. But he can also set his rainfly up without having to put the inner tent up. So if he's in a crunch and it's blowing wind, storming, whatever, he can throw that rainfly on and then get under his rainfly and put his tent the rest of the way up. So if you're somebody that likes an internal tent, you can't beat the tent that Nathan got, that Nemo Hornet 2-person. Can't beat that tent. If you're worried about bugs and things like that, mosquitoes, it's super lightweight. I don't know that there's a tent on the market right now that's got the same durability as well as the same space for that amount of weight. So sorry about the confusion. So we'll switch back over to the clip of us together, and we'll just do an overview of the video.
All right, so hopefully that kind of gives you an idea of the difference if you're kind of on the edge versus on what kind of shelter that you want to use in the backcountry, or you're really not sure what you want to use. It's really a lot of personal preference. So I really like the floorless style shelter, like this Luxe Hexpeak here, like my Teepee tent. Nathan likes more of a full shelter, more of a full tent.
I prefer having the floor in it, a little more coverage, but it's like I say, it's personal preference.
Yeah. So like, you know, like with anything, boots, bows, anything out there, like Nathan was saying, it's personal preference, but each tent, each type of shelter is going to have its benefits, and it's also going to have its cons. Durability wise, 4-season wise, high winds, snow, rain, stuff like that, I personally believe like your Teepee style tent's going to do better. Lightweight backpacking tent, I don't think you can beat this Nemo Hornet, honestly. I think it's the best 2-person lightweight backpacking tent out there as far as how light it is, how fast it is to pop up, how many areas that you can put the tent in, put it up in. So like Nathan was saying, rocky, hilly, it don't matter. He don't really even have to get stakes in. He can just pop that tent up. If it's raining, whatever, he can just get inside of his tent, weather the storm out, get back up, and if he needs to, he can shore it down a little bit better. Takes a little bit more time to get used to putting up a teepee tent. Now that I've done it several times on backpacking trips, I've got my system down, takes next to no time, and I love it. after seeing the way last year, the way I fought with my tent versus how fast Nathan got his put up, he was definitely leaps and bounds faster than I was with the tent that I was using at the time. But that being said, hopefully you got something out of the video. Try to keep it short and sweet. We're no technical experts by any means, and we don't know the gear, you know, from the book specs and stuff like that. We just know what we use and what we like. So I hope you liked the video. Hope you got something out of it. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to comment below. Ask us, you know, we'll get back to you and we'll let you know anything we can answer, we'll try to answer for you. So we're trying to get some good content out there to y'all. Good luck this elk season. We got, you know, some states are opening up here next week, I believe, or maybe the beginning of the following week. So good luck out there. Hopefully y'all tag out this year, and we're going to try to drop a couple more videos before we leave, but we'll be leaving here pretty soon. So good luck to everybody. Please like and subscribe. Let us know what you think about the video, and we appreciate you watching. Thank you.